Her father mocked me, called me a failure, and she stayed silent. I begged her to defend me, but she never did. So I walked away. Would you have done the same? I never thought falling in love would feel like walking into a battlefield. I'm 24, and she's 32. She's smart, beautiful, confident, and yes, she has 2 kids from a previous relationship. From the moment we met, everything felt like it just clicked. But what I didn't realize was that loving her would mean stepping into a storm. Not just with her ex, not just with her kids, but with her entire family, who seems determined to make me feel like the villain in a story where all I did was fall in love. The first time I went to her place, I honestly thought things were going well. Her kids, 2 boys, ages 7 and 10, were shy at first, but they eventually warmed up to me when I sat on the floor and played a video game with them. For a moment, I felt like maybe this could actually work. I wasn't trying to replace their father. I just wanted to be someone safe and positive in their lives. But the problem wasn't the kids. It was the adults. The very next weekend, I met her parents at a family cookout. The second her mom realized I was younger, I saw her entire expression change. She smiled, but it wasn't warm. It was the kind of smile people give when they're silently judging you. Her dad didn't even shake my hand properly. He gave me that limp, dismissive handshake while looking past me like I wasn't even worth his time. And then came the comments. So, you're only 24? Still a kid yourself, huh? What exactly are you planning to do with a woman who already has children? Don't you think she deserves someone more established? They said these things casually, as if they were jokes, but every word felt like a punch in the gut that I tried to laugh it off. But deep down I was boiling. I wasn't some loser drifting through life. I have a stable job, I pay my bills, I'm responsible. But none of that seemed to matter. To them, I wasn't her boyfriend. I was just the young guy who was going to mess up her life. And the worst part? She noticed. I could see the embarrassment in her eyes as her parents kept taking these little shots at me, like I wasn't good enough for her. She didn't say much in the moment, but I could tell she was torn between defending me and not wanting to start a fight with her family. That night, when we got back to her place, she apologized for how they acted. She told me her parents were just protective and that I shouldn't take it personally. But how could I not? It was clear from day one that they saw me as a mistake she was making. And that was only the beginning. After that cookout, things started to shift. At first, I thought maybe it was just me being sensitive, but the tension was undeniable. Every time we were around her family, it was like walking into enemy territory. Her mom would hover around us constantly, making innocent remarks that were anything but. If I served myself food, she'd say, "Oh, I guess boys your age eat a lot. Enjoy it while your metabolism lasts." If I made a comment about the kids, she'd smile and add, "It's cute you're trying, but you're too young to understand real parenting." Her dad wasn't any better. He'd constantly ask about my job, not in a curious way, but like he was digging for proof I wasn't good enough. "So you're still working there, huh? Not really a career though, is it?" One night he even said, "What's your 5-year plan?" Because my daughter doesn't need someone who's just drifting. It was exhausting. Every single visit turned into a silent interrogation, with subtle digs sprinkled into every conversation. And the cruelest part? They never said anything directly bad enough to call them out on without sounding overly defensive. It was death by 1,000 cuts. The kids picked up on it, too. One evening, the older boy asked me, "Why does Grandpa always look mad at you?" I didn't know what to say. I laughed it off and told him adults just get grumpy sometimes. But inside, it stung. Even the children could sense the disapproval radiating off their grandparents. I started noticing something else, too. After each family visit, my girlfriend grew distant. She didn't break up with me, didn't even argue, but there was a heaviness between us. Like their doubts were planting seeds in her mind. She'd ask me questions she never asked before, about my career, my plans. Whether I really wanted to be with a woman who already had kids. That it felt like her parents were slowly poisoning the well. And I was powerless to stop it. And then came the moment that nearly broke me. The moment that nearly broke me happened at what was supposed to be a joyful family dinner. It was her father's birthday, and she insisted we go to the big gathering at their house. I was nervous already. Every family event felt like a test I was bound to fail, but I told myself I'd push through it for her. The evening started off okay. I brought a nice bottle of wine, shook hands with her dad, even helped her mom in the kitchen. I was on my best behavior, smiling, polite, trying to show them I was serious about their daughter and her kids. But the undercurrent of tension was there from the start. Like always at the dinner table, her father sat at the head, and I was seated right across from him. It felt like being in a courtroom, with him as the judge. He started asking me about work again. I explained that while my job wasn't flashy, it was stable and allowed me to provide, and I was working toward a promotion. I thought I was giving a reasonable, honest answer, but then he leaned back, gave me this look, like he was disappointed in me just for existing, and said, loud enough for the whole table to hear, "Stable? That's just another word for stuck. My daughter deserves someone ambitious, not someone content with scraping by. What kind of future can you give her and the kids? At your age, you should be chasing real success, not clinging to mediocrity." The room went silent. Forks froze halfway to mouths. I felt heat rush to my face, my chest tight, like I couldn't breathe. It was humiliating, like he had stripped me down in front of everyone. And the worst part? My girlfriend didn't say a word. She didn't defend me, didn't tell him he was out of line. She just stared at her plate, cheeks red, and let the moment hang there. Her mom chuckled softly and added, "Well, he's young. Maybe he'll grow into it." Like I was some kind of unfinished project they had no faith in. I wanted to walk out right then. To stand up, slam my napkin down, and say I wouldn't tolerate being treated like trash. But then I glanced at her kids, sitting there wide-eyed, looking between me and their grandparents. They didn't understand the words, but they understood the tension. I couldn't let them see me explode, so I swallowed it. Forced a smile. Pretended it didn't cut me to pieces. But inside, something shifted. I realized no matter what I did, they weren't going to respect me. They didn't see me as a man who loved their daughter and cared for her kids. They saw me as a mistake. Too young, too weak, too unworthy. That night, on the drive home, the silence between me and my girlfriend was deafening. She didn't apologize for her parents, didn't even bring it up. Finally, I asked her, "Do you think they're right? Do you think I'm not good enough for you?" She hesitated. That hesitation was worse than any insult. The car ride home after that dinner felt endless. The kids had dozed off in the back seat, their little heads bobbing as the car hummed along the dark road. But between me and her, the silence was thick, suffocating, almost louder than any argument we'd ever had. I kept glancing at her, waiting for her to break it, to at least acknowledge what had just happened. But she didn't. She just stared straight ahead, hands gripping the wheel, her jaw tight. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. My chest felt like it was caving in, and I blurted it out. "Do you think they're right? Do you think I'm not good enough for you?" Her hands tightened around the wheel, and for a long moment, she said nothing. That pause alone was enough to gut me. Then she sighed and said, barely above a whisper, "It's not about being good enough. It's just, they worry about me, about the kids, about our future." I felt my throat go dry. "That's not what I asked. I asked if you think I'm not good enough." She kept her eyes on the road, lips pressed in a thin line. Another long pause. And then she said, "Sometimes. I don't know." Those words hit me like a punch to the gut. My stomach twisted, and I swear I felt my hands go numb on my lap. After everything I'd done, helping with her kids, staying up late to fix things around the house, trying to balance my work with building a life with her, she still wasn't sure. She still let her parents' doubts seep into her own heart. I leaned back against the seat, staring out at the blur of passing streetlights. My mind was racing, replaying every moment of that dinner, every insult her father had thrown at me. I had expected her to defend me, to at least tell them that she loved me, and that was enough. But instead, I got hesitation, doubt. When we pulled into her driveway, she killed the engine but didn't move. We just sat there in the dark. I could hear the kids breathing softly in the back seat. Finally, she said, "I know it's not fair. I know they're hard on you. But they've seen me hurt before. They've seen me make mistakes. They just don't want me to make another one." Her words were meant to soften the blow, but instead, they carved me open even more. Another mistake. Was that what I was to her? A mistake waiting to happen? I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just nodded slowly, stepped out of the car, and unbuckled the kids, carrying them one by one inside. I tucked them into bed, kissed their foreheads like I always did, and then went into the bathroom to wash up. But when I looked at myself in the mirror, I barely recognized the man staring back. He looked defeated, small, like all the fight had drained out of him. That night, lying beside her in bed, There was an ocean of space between us. I could feel the distance, not just physically, but emotionally. For the first time since we'd gotten together, I started to wonder if love alone was enough to hold this all together. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. She was still asleep, her arm draped across the empty space between us, like even in her dreams, she needed distance. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor, my mind spinning that I kept replaying her words in the car. Sometimes, I don't know, that hesitation, that doubt, it burned worse than any insult her father had thrown at me. Because at least with him, I expected it. But with her, she was supposed to be my safe place. As I sat there, my phone buzzed. It was a message from one of my buddies. Just a simple, "Hey man, you good?" But it made me realize something. I hadn't told anyone about what was really going on. Not my friends, not my family. I'd been carrying this all on my own, trying to prove myself to her and to her parents like it was some kind of endless exam I could never pass. Later that day, when the kids were at school and she was in the kitchen making coffee, I tried again. I leaned against the counter and asked, "Do you actually believe in us? In me? Because if you don't, I need to know now." She froze for a second, then turned around with this tired look on her face. "Why do you keep asking me that?" she said, her voice sharper than I expected. "You think I'd let you live here, be around my kids, if I didn't believe in you at all?" I wanted to accept that answer. I wanted it to be enough. But it wasn't. Because believing in me at all and truly wanting a future with me were two very different things. The following weekend made everything worse. We were invited again to her parents' house, this time for a family gathering. I didn't want to go. Every instinct in me screamed to stay home, avoid the humiliation, avoid the fake smiles and cutting remarks. But she insisted, saying, "It'll be different this time. They just need more time to get to know you." I wish I had trusted my gut. Her brother pulled me aside at one point, beer in hand, and said, "Look, man, nothing personal, but you're just not on our level. My sister deserves someone who's established, someone who can give her kids the life they deserve. Do yourself a favor and don't drag her down." I stood there, fists clenched, every muscle in my body screaming to fire back. But I didn't. I just nodded and walked away, because what could I say? It wasn't just her father anymore. It was her whole family closing ranks against me. And the worst part? When I told her later, when I finally let it spill how her brother had cornered me, she just sighed and said, "They're protective, that's all. They don't mean it the way it sounds." But I knew exactly how they meant it. They wanted me gone. That night, lying awake while she slept peacefully beside me, I realized something terrifying. Love wasn't the only thing in this relationship anymore. There was doubt, resentment, and a constant shadow cast by her family. And no matter how hard I tried, I wasn't sure if I could ever escape it. The idea hit me late one night when I couldn't sleep. I thought, if her family doubts me because they think I have nothing to offer, then I'll prove them wrong. I'll show them I'm not just some young guy chasing a woman out of his league. I'll show them I'm someone who can build a future. So I threw myself into work. I started picking up extra shifts, taking on projects I normally would have avoided. I barely had time for anything else. When the kids wanted me to play, I'd tell them, "Later, I've got to finish this first." When she asked me to go out with her, I'd say, "I can't, I'm too busy." I told myself it was temporary, that once I leveled up, everything would fall into place. But instead of admiration, what I got was distance. One evening, after I came home late and found her already in bed, she turned over and said quietly, "You're never here anymore. The kids miss you. I miss you. Why are you doing this?" I swallowed hard and told her, "I'm doing it for us. So your family will finally respect me. So you can finally feel secure with me." She sighed and shook her head. "I don't care about what they think. I just want you here. That's all I ever wanted." Her words should have comforted me, but instead they cut deeper. Because if that was true, why did she hesitate every time her father sneered at me? Why did she stay silent when her brother called me a drag on her life? Why did she keep expecting me to understand their behavior instead of defending me? The breaking point came a few weeks later, at her daughter's school recital. I had worked so hard to rearrange my schedule, to make sure I didn't miss it. I even left work early, something my boss wasn't thrilled about. But when I got there, all dressed up and ready to cheer for her little girl, her father was already there, sitting next to her in the front row. I walked up, smiled politely, and went to sit beside them. But her dad looked me dead in the eye and said, "This seat's taken." Why don't you find a spot in the back? I froze. Her daughter waved at me from the stage, her little face lighting up when she spotted me. I wanted to walk forward, to sit where I belonged, but my girlfriend didn't say a word. She just stared at the floor, letting the silence choke me. So I walked to the back. Sat down alone. Pretended like it didn't matter. Pretended like my chest wasn't caving in. And when her daughter ran up after the recital and hugged me, saying, "Did you see me? Did you like it?" I forced a smile and said, "Of course, you were amazing." But inside, something broke, because I realized in that moment, no matter how hard I worked, no matter how much I sacrificed, as long as her family didn't accept me, and as long as she let them treat me that way, I would always be sitting in the back row of her life. That night, after the recital, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, my chest heavy with a knot of emotions I couldn't untangle. Her daughter's smile. The way she ran to me so full of joy. That was the only thing keeping me from walking out right then and there. But her father's words, and even more than that, her silence, kept replaying in my head. "This seat's taken. Why don't you find a spot in the back?" It wasn't just a chair he was talking about. It was my place in their lives. The next morning, I tried to talk to her. I told her how much it hurt, how I felt invisible, how I felt like no matter what I did, I would never be good enough. She listened, but instead of fighting for me, she said, "You know how my dad is. He doesn't mean it like that. Just ignore him." Ignore him? I'd been ignoring him for months. I'd been swallowing insults, brushing off his looks, pretending his disapproval didn't matter. But it wasn't just him. It was the fact that she kept asking me to accept it. To accept being treated like less, that I finally asked her straight out. "Do you even see me as your equal? Or am I just filling space until someone you think your family will approve of comes along?" She froze. For a long moment, she didn't answer. And that silence was louder than any insult her family had ever thrown my way. I realized then, love alone wasn't enough. I could give her everything, my time, my loyalty, my heart. But if she wouldn't stand beside me, if she wouldn't fight for me, then I was fighting a war I could never win. That's when the thought I had been avoiding finally hit me like a punch to the gut. Maybe I had to let her go. Maybe loving her and those kids wasn't enough to build a future when I was always being pushed into the shadows. The following days felt like walking through fog. Everything looked the same on the outside. Work, dinner, bedtime routines with the kids. But inside, my mind was a storm. That I caught myself staring at her while she cooked, wondering if she even realized the wall that had grown between us. When we sat on the couch, she leaned into me, but I felt a hollowness where closeness used to be. She thought everything was fine because I was still there, but I wasn't really there anymore. Every word her father said replayed in my head. Every time she brushed it off echoed louder. "Just ignore him." And every time I thought about the kids, my chest tightened. They trusted me. They looked at me like I was already part of their family. Walking away from her meant walking away from them. 2.1 night. I poured myself a drink, sat at the table, and made a list. Literally, a list of reasons to stay and reasons to leave. Reasons to stay. I love her. I love the kids. That we have built memories together. Leaving will break her heart. And there's reasons to leave. She doesn't defend me. Her family doesn't respect me. I feel like a ghost in her world. I can't see a future where I'm more than the guy she's dating. When I looked at that list, the reality slapped me in the face. The reasons to stay were all about love and memories. But the reasons to leave were about respect, dignity, and the future. Love is powerful. But love without respect? That's not a foundation. That's a trap. For the first time, I let myself picture life without her. It was painful, almost unbearable. But it also felt lighter. Like maybe I could finally breathe without constantly proving myself to people who never wanted to see me in the first place. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to just fade away or let her father push me out silently. I was going to sit her down, look her in the eye, and tell her the truth, that I couldn't keep living in the shadows of her silence. The night I chose to talk to her, my heart was pounding harder than it had on our first date. She was sitting on the couch scrolling through her phone, the kids already asleep. I sat down across from her, not beside her this time. She noticed immediately. "What's wrong?" she asked, concern flashing in her eyes. That I took a deep breath. "I can't do this anymore. Not like this." She frowned, setting her phone down. "Do what?" "Pretend that your silence doesn't hurt me." Pretend that your father's words don't cut me to the bone every time I walk into his house. Pretend that I'm respected in this relationship when the truth is, I'm not. Her mouth opened, but I held up my hand. Please, just let me finish. I told her everything. How it felt to stand in her father's home, treated like a nobody. How every dismissive comment made me question my worth. How watching her stay quiet while he belittled me was worse than the insults themselves. You could have said something. Just once, I said, my voice cracking. You could have looked him in the eye and said, that's enough. He's with me. But you didn't. And because of that, I don't know if I'm really with you. Or if I'm just surviving in your world while being erased in his. Tears welled up in her eyes. She reached for my hand, but I pulled it back. Do you have any idea what that silence feels like? I whispered. She shook her head, speechless. For once, there were no excuses, no just ignore it. Just silence. The same silence that had broken me in the first place. That I stood up, grabbed my jacket, and paused at the door. I love you. I love your kids. But I can't keep loving someone who won't even stand up for me. If you ever decide to choose me fully, loudly, you know where to find me. But until then, I can't stay. The door clicked shut behind me, and for the first time in months, the air felt lighter. Painful, yes, but free. Thank you for watching this story on True Tales Hub. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our next story. That we post new tales twice a day, and each one comes with unexpected twists you won't see coming.